Hey guys, what's up? This is Casey. This is Coach Tom. This is Shot Science Overtime number 125. We're going to do what we do every Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to have a live show where we start off with a topic that we want to discuss with you guys that we think is going to help you take your game, to the next level. And while we're doing that, you guys are going to send us your questions on anything basketball related. It can be on shooting, dribbling, passing, defense, listening to your coach, developing your athleticism and conditioning, whatever it is. Send it our way on Twitter. We are at Shot Science. You can put it here in the chat on YouTube, on the stream, or you can send it to us on Google Plus or anywhere you can find us on social media. And we are Shot Science pretty much on everything. I think on everything, not even pretty much. And while we discuss our topic, you guys are sending those questions, and also go out there and tell your friends and family to watch, because that helps us grow the team and be able to do more cool things for you guys. And remember that this is our live show. This is a 1-hour show. This is not a regular video. This is just a show that we do so that we can talk to you guys face to face and answer some of your questions that you might have, that you might be wanting to ask a coach. And it's just not a regular video. So if this is not your cup of tea, that's cool. We're just here to help you guys that need help. Okay. So our topic for today, send those questions in. Our topic for today is never do these 3 things when dribbling. So there are some kind of hard and fast rules that we like to have for our players that keep them out of trouble, because when you have the basketball in your hands, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. There's a lot of mistakes that can be made. And if you kind of follow these rules, you will be in much better shape than if you just go out there and try to wing it. And the first thing that we want to talk about is, we'll call this number 1, is just places not to go when you're dribbling, and things not to do when you go to those places.
Right.
Okay. So the first one is crossing over the half court line.
Okay. You want me to take this?
Yeah.
All right. We have some very definite rules that we teach all of our players about how far and when to go over that mid-court line. One of the things that happens is oftentimes players can hear that little clock running in their brain for the 10-second violation, and sometimes they'll come up to that line and they'll just step over it just to get into the forecourt, and you're being pressured right there. Now the mid-court line becomes another defender and gets you into trouble. And so our rule is this, is that when you cross that 10-second line or the mid-court line, make sure that you penetrate at least 10 feet into the forecourt, so that cannot be used. The mid-court line cannot be used as another
just
barrier,
an imaginary defender.
Yeah, an imaginary defender. Yeah, and so we always want to make sure that we penetrate deep enough there that we can stay out of trouble.
Yeah, the worst thing you can do is cross the line and immediately pick up the ball.
Yeah,
because then it's panic mode, because you're going to have your guy, maybe even another guy, coming to blitz you on that and lock you into that area right there by the midcourt line. Because if you step back over it, that's a violation on you.
Right.
And they know that if they put pressure on you on one side, you can't go anywhere the other way.
Exactly.
And even if your teammate goes behind the line, you can't throw in the ball, because that's going to be an over and back violation. Right. So you always want to push that ball over the line. Don't pick up your dribble.
Right.
And then the next place.
Let me put a little more window dressing on that one. One of the things we also teach our players, and we think this really pays good benefits for us, is we don't want our players to be concerned about that little clock that's ticking their head on the 10-second violation. And this kind of goes away from the things that we're talking about on dribbling, but this is, I think, really important, is that we're trying to work the ball up the floor. And for all intents and purposes, we want them to forget about that clock. We'd like to get it over into the forecourt so we don't get that violation. But the thing that is really kind of a problem is that we want to take and throw those long passes possibly into the forecourt before that time elapses, so that we don't call for a violation. But usually when we do that, they're panic passes and they're easy to intercept. And usually they're going to end up with a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-1 situation coming back. And so what we always teach our players is this: if you take that 10-second violation, take it, because then we have a chance to get back and we'll play defense, and we got a chance to get all 5 guys back there to play defense rather than throw panic passes.
Okay, so that was an aside.
Yeah, that was an aside.
That's a bonus. You're welcome, you guys. So getting back to places not to go with your dribble, another one is any of the corners on the basketball court.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the reasoning is similar to crossing the half court line, just because you're adding in those extra imaginary defenders.
And that's very true. And most 3/4 zone presses try to guide you to that corner that is just over the 3-second or the 10-second line. That way they get you with 2 players and 2 boundaries, and they lock you in there, and there's not much you can do.
Well, they can get you on the baseline corners.
We can do the baseline. It's the same situation, but that usually it occurs out more in the mid-court area, but they can trap you down there too. So stay out of the corners. And usually what we'll do is we get into those corners and there's nowhere to go, and we pick up the dribble. Now we're really in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, primarily, you don't want to go in those places with your dribble.
Yeah.
And secondarily, if you pick up your dribble, you are in deep trouble.
Yeah.
Because that's when the defense sees blood, and they're going to be all over you because they know that you screwed up big time.
And you can't throw it into the backcourt, because if you do, that's a violation. So,
and you can't step out over the line because you're going to step out of bounds.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a double trouble zone.
Okay. Another aside. This is a quick one.
Hurry.
When you get into those pickles where you get caught in the corner, we always tell our guys, if you're in trouble, bounce it off the guy's foot out of bounds. Make sure you get it out of bounds off him. Sometimes if you're not careful, it'll hit him, it'll hit you, and then it out of bounds. But we get a new clock. We get a whole different situation once we get the ball out of bounds.
Or see who the secondary guy is that's coming off of your teammate, and throw it to that teammate, because
if you can get it to
he's going to get open.
Yeah.
But the number one thing not to do in that situation is, number one, pick up the ball. Number two, panic.
Wow.
You need to be cool about it.
Yeah, and stay out of
those places, because that is like mousetrap situation. Like, they know they've got you.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next part, number 2, is going to be things that you should never do with the basketball when you're dribbling. And number 1, I would say, is don't start your dribble unless you're going to go somewhere, because otherwise you're kind of wasting what you're the deceptive kind of primary moves that you can use.
That's true.
Like the jab step or a shot fake, or any of those kind of the diamond, any of those moves that you can use the ball without starting your dribble. You've given those up. So you're not going to have that step ahead of the defense.
Right.
So you don't want to start using the dribble unless you're ready to go somewhere.
Right.
Right.
Right. And then on the other side of that, don't pick it up.
Yep.
Until you're sure that you know what you're going to do with it. You see this so much with younger players. They get a little pressure and they immediately pick up the dribble, and now they're really in trouble, because maybe they're cutting off the passing lanes and there's nowhere for you to throw the ball. Or they double team trap you, and it's really hard to get the ball over or around. So maintain that dribble as long as you can. Now, if you get caught in a trap like that, you want to make sure that you can go someplace. The usual place that you can go is, number 1, retreat. And keep the dribble alive, retreat, and let those defenders come to you. And as they come to you, take and attack the one that is toward the middle of the court, not the sideline, but the middle of the court, and attack him aggressively. What happens when you do that is the other player is momentarily canceled out because he's caught behind. And you attack him aggressively.
Well, yeah. I mean, you don't want to attack 2 guys at the same time. You want to attack one and get yourself out of the pickle.
Right. And some people say, well, I can split that. Well, yeah, not very often do you get away with that. Well, maybe you're exposing the ball and they can get their hands on it.
Maybe you can, but the best way to be able to split it is to attack that one guy.
Attack the one guy.
And then that might present itself. So
and you should want to attack him not to the middle of the trap or anything. Go to the middle of the floor. And one of the things that we like, there's another little aside, is that when you're bringing the ball up against pressure, we divide the court visually into 3 lanes. There's 2 lanes, one on each side, that are about 10 feet wide or so. And the other one is that big wide one down the middle. And you want to maintain that position with the dribble in that middle zone, if at all possible.
Okay. And now the third part of that, number 2, a lot of numbers we're working with today, but that third part is, don't use your dribble unless you're actually going somewhere. It's kind of like a dribble economy thing. Yep. You don't need to stand there and put together your N1 mixtape in one move. If you're going to use your dribble, use it to go somewhere. Yep. If you've already started it. So you don't need to do 5 moves just to get one place, essentially.
Yep.
Yep. That just only presents times when you can give up the ball and make a mistake or kick the ball out of bounds or just create a turnover. You really want to make sure you're taking care of the ball and you're using it to do specific tasks,
right,
like attack the rim or get to a certain spot on the floor. Every game we watch, we see these guys that go out there and they're doing all these between the legs and doing all this stuff that they don't need to be doing, and that usually gets them in trouble.
Yeah, it does.
And remember, you're not part of an entertainment basketball team. You're not the professor. You need to just take a moment and realize that that stuff doesn't fly when you start playing in competitive basketball. And if you try to do that stuff for a college coach, you will be on the bench faster than you can even realize it, because they don't care that you can put together all these moves and everything like that. They want to see you execute and get the ball in the basket. If you can't do that, then you're going to be on the bench.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Now, number 3, and we find this to be very important, is just your dribble mechanics. And we see people out there, they're out there dribbling the ball, and it's just like a very casual petting of the ball. And they're not really having very much control over it, and it's just to me, it's just casual.
Yeah.
So what should they be doing?
Well, you should be pounding the basketball when you're dribbling it. It should be really thumping the floor. And when you put it into the floor, you want to make sure that it sounds like a ripe pumpkin when it hits the floor. Several things that come out of that is the fact that the ball responds to your hand much quicker and with much more force, and it tends to stick in your hand better when you are letting the ball come back really hard. As Casey was talking about, we always caution our players who are working on dribble skills that we don't want them to pet the dog. Nice doggy, where you're just really soft with the ball. You want to pound that thing. And so that's really important for us to keep that in mind, is that the speed, or maybe the speed's not the rest, but the power of the ball when it comes out of your hand should create a really solid dribble. Now, to make any difference if it's cross dribble, behind the back dribble, or whatever, it should be aggressive and thumping that floor really hard. That's probably one of the most important keys to good ball handling, is pound the ball.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you think about it, everything that you're doing while you're dribbling the basketball should be all about business.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing it from that approach, it's probably because either you're trying to show off or you're trying to do something that you really aren't capable of. So don't do that stuff. The whole purpose of dribbling is to be able to advance the ball and create opportunities. And if you're using it to do anything other than that, then you're not really doing anything for yourself or for the team that's going to count. And so make sure that you are staying out of the trouble places and not picking up the ball and causing more problems. Make sure that you are not wasting your dribbling. So it's kind of a dribble economy, and make sure that you are dribbling effectively by using the right mechanics. Pound the ball into the floor. Right. Yeah.
There's another thought that kind of comes along with this whole thing on dribbling and whatnot, and taking care of the ball.
Lots of bonuses today.
Yeah, there are. I hope they're bonuses. And where'd it go?
I don't know. Anyway.
Okay, here it is.
Okay.
The one thing that we teach when we're talking about ball handling skills also is the fact that the whole idea of ball skills has to do with manipulating or controlling what the ball does. You often see people who are doing scissors, and they're jumping and crossing the legs and all that. We ensure that our guys all are moving the basketball to get to where they're going to go. They're not just taking to move their foot so they can get the ball through there. They are actually manipulating the basketball. That is the key to ball handling as far as we're concerned. Make the ball do what you want it to do in a lot of different kinds of situations, and you'll become very comfortable with the basketball.
Yeah, and don't give up kind of the surprise of what you have with the basketball. I mean, so many people are they're ready to put the ball on the floor as soon as they catch it, but they forget about the fact that they have a jab step, they have a shot fake, they have the diamond. There's so many things that they could use before they even use the dribble.
Right.
And you can't be dumb about those things. You got to use every tool that you can, and realize that you're trying to be a step ahead of the defender, and you can't just give them, that first step because you want to put the ball on the floor. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So keep yourself cool, save your dribble economy, and just be smart about it.
Absolutely.
Are we cutting it off right
We're
there?
cutting it off. No more asides.
Okay, so that's it for our thoughts on these 3 things you should never do while dribbling. And, you know, each one of the 3 kind of has several little nuggets in there. So make sure you kind of tuck those away and try to use those in your approach to the game. Hopefully you guys have been sending us questions about anything basketball, and we're going to jump into those right now. If you have any questions you want to ask us, make sure you tweet them at us. We are at Shot Science. You can leave them here in the YouTube stream or on the Google Plus app. And we will do our best to get as many people as possible. Go tell your friends and family, because that helps us do more cool things for you guys. But let's get into your questions. And we're going to start here with our buddy John Wolf on Google Plus. And John is asking, why do most people not want to train outside? Is that because the wind can make your shot miss? Well, I don't know if there's any reason why people don't want to train outside.
Well, everybody wants to train inside, I'm sure, because you've got that nice floor. The baskets usually are in good shape. Outside, maybe you've got that rough surface, either the asphalt or the concrete, and maybe the wind is blowing. Oftentimes we're giving lessons outside. We've got the wind that is going pretty good, and it does affect the flight of the ball. But I think that probably if people had a choice, they would go inside.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just you know, playing outside, there's more variables, but you know, they aren't things that are going to be prohibitive. So
no.
You got to use what you can, and if you can only work outside, then that's what you got to do. But if you can get inside, cool, do that too. You know, there's no real kind of detriment to working outside. You got to use what you got.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go here into the Google or into the YouTube comments. This one is from iSeb with a lot of B's, who says, how can I develop my right hand both on dribbling and layups? I'm a lefty. This is a super easy question. We get it all the time.
It is.
Let the floor be yours.
You know, it's kind of interesting to us that people often ask questions like this. How can I be better at this? How can I be better at that? Well, the answer is really simple. You work on it. Usually the reason that we don't have strong offhands is because we are reluctant to put ourselves in the situation where we do that. And I was talking with a youngster just about an hour ago. We had a lesson, and one of the things that I told this particular person, listen, if you don't have a left hand, they're going to make you play with your left hand the whole game. And what's going to happen is you're probably going to be ineffective and turn the ball over. So you develop that by spending maybe 20 minutes a day where all you're doing is working on your offhand. That doesn't mean that you forget about the other one, but you spend more time on the offhand or your weak hand developing your skills with that.
Yeah, well, here's the thing is that people think that there's some magic trick to developing your offhand.
No.
The thing is that your strong hand is it's more kind of innervated to be your dominant hand. Your offhand is just going to be a little bit wonkier.
Yep,
and you need to put more effort into developing that. But it's the same work that you did to develop that dominant hand that goes into your weaker hand. You just have to do more work, and it's going to be more kind of diligent approach to getting it up to par.
Right.
But there is no secret to it.
No, there is no. You just work on it and make sure that you try to bring it up to the level of the other hand. And the same thing is true with your left hand lay-ins or layups, whatever. You know, we've got some videos on layups, and we show you how to learn how to shoot those offhand layups just by eliminating the dribble in the beginning and just taking 1 or 2 steps, and you back up and you take 2 or 3 steps. And so, and it's a very effective way to learn how to do layups.
Yeah, it's just the 3 pillars of practice applied. And the thing is that you got to break everything down, slow it down, and really work on making sure that your footwork is right. Make sure that if it's dribbling, that you're really pounding the ball into the ground. And it's just, you know, it's the same stuff.
Yeah. But
you just have to do it mirror image, and it's going to be a little bit more work to get it there because that's just not your dominant side.
Right.
Okay. This one is from Twitter, and it's from Erica Garza, who is at Jezel_16, who says, "How can I adjust to my high school court size?" I think she's saying that the rim is higher, so do I need to have more arch on my shot? Okay, well, when it comes to adjusting to playing on a regulation-sized basketball court, you're going to have to do some conditioning on that. And it's not something where if you're used to playing half-court basketball, you can just step into the full court and really have everything under control.
Right.
You have to get your conditioning up to that. And whether that's playing on that full court for a while, or whether that's actual getting into your conditioning and doing some interval training, those are just things that you have to do to be able to stay out of that deep fatigue that's going to really limit your game. So you got to work on your conditioning. And then when it comes to the height of I guess the rim is what you're talking about. If you are shooting on lower hoops or higher hoops, there's going to be an adjustment period for your shot.
Right.
And you're just going to have to go through that if you're choosing to shoot on lower or higher hoops. And the thing about it is that I personally, I don't know how much you think about it, but shooting at a lower hoop is probably going to give you a flatter shot, because you're going to probably be finishing a little bit lower with your release than if you were to be finishing at a regulation size basket. So I don't think it's the best thing to shoot at those lower hoops if you can avoid it.
Yeah. If you've been playing there though, and you go to a larger one or a higher one, what you want to make sure is that you get plenty of arc. And as far as how much arc, go to our videos and you'll see there what is the perfect arc.
Yeah. Okay. Next question is from our buddy Brandon Wong, who is at Brandon Wong 2017. He says, I have a horrible habit of leaving my feet when I pass. Any good drills to help break this habit?
It's not a matter of drill so much. It's a matter of the mental part of the game.
Discipline.
Yeah. You have to discipline yourself not to leave the floor, because that is a disaster waiting to happen. You see somebody open and you jump in the air and you go to throw the pass and there's somebody there and you can't throw it. Now you end up with that violation by landing back on the floor with the ball in your possession. What you just want to get yourself trained to the fact that you never leave your feet to make a pass. You are always on the floor.
And you develop this in practice.
Yeah,
this is not something you have to do in a game, but you need to really discipline yourself in practice. And, the thing is that you're one of the people that has identified the problem, but you're not applying that to your actual practice. Yeah. There is no magical drill to stop something like that.
No.
I mean, you can work on your drills, but while you're doing those drills, you need to tell yourself, don't leave your feet. Don't leave your feet until it gets to the point where you don't need to tell yourself that anymore.
Well, and your coach will be telling you plenty too, because if you leave your feet, in fact, most every coach will tell you this, if you leave your feet, you're probably going to get a travel violation. It's just because you can't make the pass that you think you want to make. And so they're going to be grinding on you. And so what you want to do is just discipline yourself that you never throw a pass where you leave the floor, period. Now, that being said, there are going to be times maybe in your life as a player where maybe that's all that's open and you go ahead and do it. But that does not make that something that you do on a regular basis.
Well, that's a sure thing type of deal. You don't want to just do it unless there's an out.
Yep.
Okay, next question is from BKJ Productions, who says, how would I develop a consistent form? Some days in practice I go 7 for 10 from 3-point line during scrimmages, but other times I use the same form and go 1 for 4. Do I just need to get my reps in to improve my consistency? Okay, you shouldn't be using different forms, number one.
Right.
It should be the same form from any place on the court, because if you're doing different forms, it's going to be a real problem in your consistency, number one. Number two is that you have to be consistent with your practice if you want to be consistent with your results. If you're out there and you do your shooting on Mondays and you want it to be there on Friday, it's not going to be there because you haven't put in the time and it's been so many days since you actually worked on it. So you need to have consistent practice. And, we think that you have to do the 3 pillars of practice, and we're going to do them right now just because we do them every week. And we just need you guys to think of this approach when you're talking about your practice. So the first pillar is you want to have a diligent, slowed down, pared down approach to dialing in your mechanics. So that's going to be something like the form shooting drill, where you really work on polishing every component of your shooting mechanics. And you're going to work on that, and you're going to master every spot on the floor just doing that form shooting drill. The next one is you're going to have game speed, game intensity practice, where you're going to apply the things you learned in the first mode or the first pillar, and you're going to actually amp them up to game speed and game intensity. You might add in a defender. You might just amp it up to what you would see when you step into a game. You might visualize the defender, whatever it is. That's the second pillar. That prepares you for the game. That prepares you for the third pillar, which is actual game experience. So you're taking the things from the first two pillars, applying it to an actual game experience. That can be any kind of basketball game, pickup game, high school game, anything that you're actually playing in an actual competitive experience. And those will help you so that you are actually consistent when you get out on the floor, because you've done it before and all your mechanics are in the right place because you've put all the work into hitting all those things.
Right. Now, the reality of the whole situation comes down to this. There's probably nobody in the world who's going to shoot 70% every time they go out and shoot 3-pointers.
Well, he's not even saying 3-pointers.
Well,
oh yeah,
I thought he did. Okay. And the reality of it is this, is that when you are in practice, you're probably going to hit a little higher percentage than would normally, but 7 out of 10 is probably, that 70% is an awfully high number. What really is a more formidable number when you're actually playing in games would be somewhere around 38 to 42% of those 3-pointers.
I mean, 40% is great.
Yeah, and if you stop and think about it, if you took 10 shots, there's 6 misses and 4 makes. And so, I will tell you this right now, because I've seen this a lot too, is that shooters who can really shoot that 3 ball sometimes will be 7 for 10. There are other times when they'll be 1 for 10 or 0 for 10. And it's not necessarily a problem with their mechanics so much as sometimes it just doesn't fall for you. Maybe it's some little glitch you're not aware of. And so I would be concerned about these things if I were you. Number one, are my shot mechanics functionally really good? And if they are, stay with them and don't worry about going 1 for 4. I would be worried if you went 0 for 20. I would be worried. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I mean, you need to have a consistent practice with that good approach of the 3 pillars. You need to realize that your average over time is probably going to even out more than you think. You're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days, but over time, it's going to be all right. And your mentality should always be, I'm going to make this shot no matter what. Yeah. You're not worrying about what you did the last time. You're not worried about next time. You're worried about that shot that you're taking right now, and you know it's going to be good. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. You're always thinking positive on those strokes.
Okay. Abdul Ka says, every team I have played for preaches to get low at all times when dribbling. However, in the NBA and NCAA games, nobody ever dribbles in such a low stance with their back bent. Why is it that coaches always tell players to dribble and crouch? Okay, it's not about dribbling and crouching. It's about getting your butt down, having a low center of gravity, and the fact that for you to go anywhere, you have to be in an athletic stance. And
you have to be in a position also where you can take contact and give contact. That's all really important.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that even if you see somebody in the NBA or the NCAA and they're standing straight up and down, that doesn't mean that you should be doing that. The fact of the matter is that you need to have good approach to your actual game yourself. And, the thing is that if you went to the camps and stuff that we went to when I was a kid, you would always be in a defensive stance or an offensive athletic stance. When you're dribbling, you could not be standing straight up because that's not athletic. It takes you longer to go anywhere because you got to get down and go. You're not going to be standing straight up and going on anything. You shorten the distance the dribble has to go and your hand to the floor. I mean, it just makes sense. So those coaches are not leading you down the wrong road. That's something that you need to do. I mean, it's sports. You're not standing straight up and down.
No, and not only that, they're telling you that for another reason. They want you to get your center of gravity low so that you can use, like I talked a while ago, just the fact that you can maybe use an arm to kind of leverage the defensive player. And you can't do that very well when you're standing straight up. So I think that you're probably, I would stay with your coaches, stay in a low position.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that with anything in sports, you have to be in an athletic stance. Yeah. One of the worst things that we see is guys standing flat-footed on offense or defense and with their knees locked because they have to do 2 things before they even can start to do anything athletic or move anywhere. So come on, stop complaining about it. I know you don't like it, but the thing is that if you get used to it, and that's just part of what your athleticism goes to, then you will be in better shape. And that's real talk. Sorry, we don't not like you, but we want to tell you that. Franz Mosso says, Why do I play better in pickup than I do in actual games? Probably just experience, right?
Well, yeah, there's probably a couple things that come to my mind there. When you're playing in pickup games, there probably is very little pressure on you as a player to perform. In actual games where you're playing with other team members and you've practiced and you've run your offense and you've run your defense, and you may not feel real comfortable in execution of all of those things. And that may be a situation that will hold you back. Oftentimes when you get into those situations too, is that you're afraid to make a mistake. In a pickup game, I made a mistake. And so you don't worry about it too much. So I think that one of the things that is really true for most young players is that they fret or feel really intimidated when they get into a game because they're afraid they're going to screw up. Hey, everybody in the world who plays this game, and most any game that you play, are going to make errors or mistakes sometimes. So let go of them and see if that doesn't help you a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you got to let go of all the peripheral crap.
Right.
Who's in the stands, what people are watching, what your parents think or what the coach, that doesn't matter. You just got to get out there and play your game and play the game that your team has set forward. Right. And just get more experience doing it and just cool out. Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah. People stress about the things that don't matter.
Yeah.
Cool out. Let's see. Here is one from Ivan Django who says, "Coaches, I have a persistent issue when crossing over, dribbling the defender. I don't know if I don't fake enough or if I dribble too high, but I often get the ball stolen when doing this. Any tips?"
Okay.
You probably, well, I mean, there's a few things you could be doing.
Yeah. The one that comes to my mind right away is you're probably dribbling the ball too tall.
Tall or wide?
And wide, tall and wide. That usually sets up a situation where the defender can reach in and tap the ball away. And so when we teach this, we start off a little wider stroke on the basketball when we're teaching this.
But it's not like a thing where you pull it way out.
No, it's not. It's relatively
just shoulder width.
Well, no, it's wider than that. But here's the thing: as we get the person developing this, then we start to tighten it up because we want that to be a very quick, explosive move. When it's out wide and tall, it is very sluggish and slow.
And here's one of your problems too: is that you're faking. I mean, the thing with crossovers and all of these dribble attacks is you're not trying to fake anybody; you're trying to sell. So when you are going into your crossover dribble, you're trying to sell the fact that you're going that direction. And if you can sell it and you then immediately make your crossover and you go the other way, you've sold that you're going this way. And the defense is going to be committed to going that direction. Right. So if they've overcommitted, that's when you crossover. If you're trying to fake with your head and do all that stuff, that's that, kind of and one street ball stuff that's not going to fly when you get into an actual game. Yeah. You need to be doing very deliberate motions when you're doing these crossover dribbles and stuff. It's not about showing off or being showy. It's about execution. And so you are selling this direction, but you're ultimately going this direction. So sell that you're going this way, and that you can sell it with your eyes and your face and your, kind of just being determined to go that way, and then cross over at the last second without telegraphing or giving them any anticipatory, cues, and go that direction.
There's no time for fakes.
No, well, trying to fake them, they're going to realize, oh, he's going to do a crossover. Yeah. Sell it so they have no notion of what you're going to be doing.
Now, just a thought to elaborate just for a moment. When we are teaching people about attacking and changing direction dribbles, the first thing that we tell them is that you have, beside the footwork, is that you have to attack that defender hard so that they have to defend hard. When they're afraid that you're going to get by them, they're going to play their butt off. And do they know you're going to make that change in direction? No, because it's going to be very quick and abrupt, and that's where you beat the defender. Make them defend hard, and then when you change that direction, you're probably going to get a step or two on them.
Well, that's all about selling it. So you have to sell.
It's not faking, it's selling it.
Yeah, faking is something different. Shot fake, that's a fake.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't be using those on dribble attacks. I mean, that's just that's the thing. If a college level coach sees you trying to pull off like a dribble fake with your head, like a street ball fake or something like that, you're out of there. I mean, that's real. They don't want to see that stuff because it's not about execution. It's about showing off. So Be about execution, sell the move, and you will be in much better shape. It might not look as cool as you think, but you're going to fake that guy out and you're going to break his ankles way worse than you would if you're trying to pull some street ball move on him.
Yeah. The classic crossover is that Iverson crossover where the ball is high and wide. But we think that the best thing is to tighten up on it.
Yeah. I mean, that was Allen Iverson. He had perfected that. And that was kind of one of his signature things. But, I bet you he could pull off a sell as well. And number two, you're not Allen Iverson. Yeah. So, you don't have the footwork, you don't have the quickness, all of that stuff. That really kind of is what made him a better or made him able to pull that off more than anybody else. So, okay, let's move on. Next one. Well, actually, if you guys want your questions answered, send them to us on Twitter. We are at Shot Science. That's the best place to get us because once we get all these questions on YouTube, it's hard to get everybody. But our next one is from I'm Taco Alien, who says, when I shoot, my shot goes to the right or left every time. Help, please, thanks.
Okay.
This is an easy one.
This is really easy. When we teach shooting, we teach the release of the ball off these two fingers, and those two fingers go right to the middle of that basket every time we shoot it.
And the reason we use two is because it gives you 2 points of contact. Right. It's going to be much more stable than if I just use one. Look at how much I'm not even trying to move the ball, and that's how much it wiggles. If it moves 1 millimeter while you're releasing the ball, it's going to be way off. But if you have those 2 points of contact as it comes off, it's much more stable.
All right. The usual problem here is that it's not the shooting hand that's the problem. It's the other hand.
Well, I think the shooting hand is one of the problems too, though.
Okay.
Because if you're not finishing at the rim, then your ball is going to be going where your finish is pointed.
But more often than not, when you are releasing the basketball, the offhand, which we refer to as the assist hand, tends to have the thumb that swipes through the ball like this as we release it. And that causes the ball to have sideways rotation, and the accuracy is really thrown out of whack by that thumb. That is, if you refer to that as the guide hand, that would be the guide hand thumb. We refer to that as the assist hand thumb. And so what should happen is at the release, this hand separates from the basketball. It actually happens a little higher. I can't really show you on the screen here. But this hand gets off the basketball, and we shoot it one-handed.
Yeah, I mean, shooting a basketball is a one-handed motion.
Yeah, it really is.
It's not a two-handed thing.
And if you watch guys like Curry and his brother Seth Curry and Klay Thompson, people like that can really stroke it, you will find that as they reach the top of the jump, for the stroke, the other hand separates from the ball. If it stays in contact with the ball, it usually is causing this to happen.
Yeah, as you extend up, that hand falls away. So, I mean, that's one thing that could be going on. The other thing is that you could be finishing right or left, and if you're finishing like this, or you're finishing like that, or you're finishing just by pulling your arm in and out, those are things that can draw the ball that way too. You need to finish directly at the rim, right to your target. That's like if you're throwing a baseball and you end up pointing at something else, or finishing at something else. Throwing a football, same deal. I mean, the ball is going to go where your release is pointed to. Right. So you need to really figure out what the problem is. Are you involving the offhand too much, or is your release pointing in the wrong direction?
Yep.
Okay. And if you go check out our videos on how to fix your shot, then you will also find those diagnosis points there, and we talk about what you can do.
Right.
Let's see here. Let me pull it up. So send us your Twitter questions, you guys. Nobody's hitting us up on Twitter today. Let's see. This one is from Ivan Django again. He says, by the way, I'm a forward guard, more on the slow side. Think Kyle Anderson slow. What was the question that he asked before? Crossing over, and he was asking the crossover stuff. Doesn't matter. Let's take the opportunity to tell people right now that we don't care what your position is, and you shouldn't either. You shouldn't try to develop your skills for a certain position. You should try to develop your skills as a basketball player and be as versatile as possible.
Exactly.
If you are a small player, you should be able to go in and do things in the post. You should be able to work on the perimeter and be able to dribble, attack, and shoot and do everything. And conversely, if you are a tall player, you should be able to do the same things. Step out on the perimeter, be able to shoot, be able to make free throws, be able to do the post move stuff. You need to be a well-rounded player all around. Positions are assigned by your coach. Coaches tell you where you fit in on the team. if you try to pigeonhole yourself as I'm a point guard, well, what if you get into a situation where you're playing and there's two point guards that are better than you? You will be third string and you will not get any playing time. But what if there's a position open at the 2 or the 3 and you can't actually step in and play those because all you've done is work to be a point guard? Well, then those don't go to you either. Yeah. So you get to sit on the bench even more. But if you had worked on your skills, it will probably make you a better point guard. And it would also give you the opportunity to step into those other 2 places. And it makes you more valuable to a coach. And if they see you in a tryout and they say, whoa, this guy, he's 5'6", but he can go into the post and he can defend against bigger guys and he can make his free throws and he can shoot on the perimeter. He can do all these things. Then they will take you because they know that you can go out there and execute. Right?
Yep. Sounds like a good one.
So forget about positions. That's the worst thing ever. Let's see here. Johnny T is asking, what are the advantages and disadvantages of a jump hook, sky hook, and baby hook shots for a post player? Thanks.
Well, probably the advantage of it is that you're able to utilize your body to separate you from the defender by getting that between the release point, whether it's a jump hook or whether baby hook, sky hook, whatever, you're using your body. And now one of the things that we teach is that when you go up for any of those hooks, this arm that's closest to the basket here, we call this the nose elbow, and you can probably figure out why. And then we kind of ward them off and that ball comes over the top. So it's more difficult for that shot to be blocked. And it's the same in all 3 of those. Now, a lot of people will develop 1 or maybe 2 of those. And I think if I were going to do it, you don't see the sky hook very much anymore. That was something that was made really prominent and famous by Jabbar. Okay. And, he actually taught Irvin Johnson or Magic Johnson how to shoot that shot. And actually Magic used that in one of their big upset wins against, I think, the Celtics. And so I would say those are really effective shots if you're within 8-9 feet of the basket.
And here's an aside too. By the way, when Magic did that, he went from playing point guard to playing the center position.
He played every position
because he was 6'9" and he played point guard normally. But that night he stepped in and he played center.
Right.
So again, echoing back to that last question. But the other thing is too is that those shots, those hook shots, they create space because you're putting yourself in between the ball and the defender, and also you're putting it away from where the defender is, and so that's creating more space that you're going to be able to work with in that shot. It's so instead of shooting right in front where that guy is right there in your face, you are creating space. Also, the footwork of those shots creates space because you're going to be getting some separation. And the thing about it is that you probably don't want to have all those shots down because that's a lot of things to really work on. If you can, that's great, but find one that is really fitting for yourself. And I just think that you have one of those ready to go, but then you also develop the counter move, which is something like the up and under. It looks like the hook shot while you're initially going into it, but it suddenly kind of involves making it look like that. They bite on it, and then you step across and you make a little lay-in. Yeah. So for any of these post moves or even dribble attacks, you're going to have the primary move, and then you're going to have the counter. And once you have those ready, I mean, you can start, getting them on that primary move. But once they figure it out, throw in that counter, and then they're going to be, not know which way is up, which way is down, and you will be in a good spot. Disadvantages. I mean, I think that maybe if you haven't developed those shots and you try to pull those out in games, you got to work on it.
Well, that's true. One of the things you have to kind of be aware of too is help side defense, because oftentimes when you turn on one of those hook shots, you're going to find that there's somebody there waiting for you. So you have to be aware of people around you as well.
Yeah. So, there is no real disadvantage unless you've made it a disadvantage. Anyway, let us know how that works out. We have some videos on hook shots too. So this was from J-Dog Smith, who says, hey, Coach, what are some ways you can practice your straight-up basketball besides form without anyone to pass to or that is defending you? Well, this comes back to the second pillar of practice, and that's just game speed, game intensity practice, where you are visualizing that there's a defender, and you are really working on getting your shooting or your just straight-up basketball to the place where it needs to be when you step out on the court. If you're just casually shooting around or even slowing things down and doing the first pillar stuff, which is just diligent kind of polishing, then you try to step on the court, that's not going to really translate. You need to work on game speed, game intensity, catch and shoot, spin shooting stuff, off the dribble stuff, and really have that dialed in.
Yeah, I was just thinking as you were talking about that, about I forgot the guy's name.
Okay, Dennis Stanton?
No.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, so if you want a good shooting drill that kind of involves that stuff, or shooting workout, check out our good friend Dennis Stanton, and he has a really cool spin shooting drill exercise kind of thing that he's put together that is really good for developing kind of in the first two pillars. Okay, let's go to Twitter. This one is from John02, who is at John_MUT17, who says, how to defend someone that can only use their right hand. Take it away.
Yeah, you get on that right hand and force them to play with their left. And that means that instead of playing them straight up, you take and shift more to that right-hand side and just make it very difficult for them to go to the right hand and force them to play with the left. I mean, that's one of the basic things in basketball is just forcing the other players defensively to play with their weak hand. Now, the one thing that we spend a lot of time on our players is that we don't want them to have a weak hand. And so we work on both hands. And we have one team that we play that always tries to take away the right hand or the strong hand of the point guard. And so we spend time with our point guard attacking on a straight line right past the guy because he's out of position with the left hand. So it's a straight hand attack, left hand attack right at the basket.
Yep, and when it comes to defense, beat him to the spot. Yeah. Don't let him get the ball. All that stuff applies still. Okay, this one is from H-Town Baby, who's at Rockets Away with a Z. He says, or they say, most say there is no real answer to this, but I'm a defensive-minded player, and I want to know the key to getting steals. There is an answer to this.
Yeah, I'll tell you the one thing that is, we're not real big into trying to steal the ball from people. And the reason for that is that usually it generates fouls for you.
Steal the ball from people that have the ball.
Yeah. Stepping across a passing lane or across their face or something like that. We're big on that. But trying to take and flip the ball away or take the ball away from a dribbler is going to be a real nightmare for you. You get yourself into foul trouble. So we don't think that that's a smart thing to do.
Trying to strip a ball handler is a sure way to really get a foul.
It is.
And a lot of guys think that that's the way that you get steals. The guys that really rack up steals are the ones that are stepping into passing lanes. They're picking off passes.
They're anticipating those passes.
Yeah, because
they're stepping in.
Yeah, and that's the real key to getting steals. It's not being the real handsy guy that's in there trying to pop the ball out. That's real hard to do. What you want to do is get into the passing lane and just anticipate where the ball is going to be and pick it off. And that's a better way to steal anyways, because you're going to be ahead of the pack and you're going to get an easy transition layup.
Well, if you watch basketball games on the college or professional level, you'll find that most of the steals that come are the result of somebody stepping across the passing lane and taking the basketball.
Okay, here's one from John02 again on Twitter. He's at John_MUT17. He says, is it ever safe to block someone?
Well, yeah, it is. But the thing that you kind of have to keep in mind is what is the size difference? If you're a guy who's 6'2" and you're trying to block a guy who's 6'6" or 6'9", you're wasting your time. One of the things that we think is probably a much more effective way to deal with that situation is to do what we call a wall up. And on the wall up is this: as soon as they pick the basketball up, that you close into them really abruptly so that you're belly button to belly button with them and the arms and hands are straight up. And understand that if your arms get out in his space and he swings the ball into him, they're going to call you for a foul. But straight up, you own that property. He doesn't. And you'll find that it's really difficult for even bigger guys to shoot over smaller guys when you wall up on them.
I mean, you're just contesting the shot and you're adding in something that really will drop their shooting percentage precipitously. Is just stepping in and contesting the shot. one of the things that most guys try to do is they try to go up there and they try to volleyball spike the shot.
Yep.
That is the dumbest thing you can do.
Right.
Number one, because you're going to get called for a foul. And number two, if you don't get called for a foul, you're throwing the ball out of bounds and you're giving up your possession. One of the greatest shot blockers of all time was Bill Russell.
Yep. And
he had the smartest approach ever was just to deflect the shot so that it was no longer viable, but also deflected in a way where he would get the possession back, because that's the whole point of trying to get, go up there and stop the ball. It's not to send it into the fourth row. Oh, that's so great. You're so wonderful at spiking the ball and giving it back to the team that was shooting it. Why don't you go up there, block the ball, get the ball, and turn it into a possession? I mean, that just makes sense. If you try to make it about macho-ness and trying to, make the other guy feel horrible, whatever. And if that guy is actually secure in himself as a basketball player, that's not even going to really bother him getting blocked. I've been blocked a billion times. Michael Jordan been blocked a billion times. Who cares? It doesn't matter. But if you go up there and you block the shot, get the ball, and you turn that into 2 points, that's something that's really going to piss off a guy that plays basketball, because he knows that he blew it and he gave you some points. Right. Okay. So go check out our video too. We talk about this. We have a video called How to Block Shots, right, and we give you kind of all the info in that. Let's go back to the YouTube comments quickly. Let's see. This one is from Kevin Tompkin, who says, "Why can I never catch a rhythm in game, but I'm good at practice?" We have a video on that called Making Practice Miss in Game. Right. And it's mostly about the second pillar of practice and getting in those game speed, game intensity work, and consistency, really.
Yeah, and I think fear comes into that a little bit too.
Well, yeah, but that's all the pillars of practice. That's getting that experience and things like that, and right, and feeling like you've been there before.
Right, and once you kind of get over the hump on the fear, then probably you're going to play effectively in both situations.
All right, here's one from Lewis, who's at Lewis Hutch _17, who says, "How can I increase my vertical jump and my athleticism in general?" We will direct you to our vertical jump videos and the vertical jump handbook. In that, we give you kind of all of our thoughts on developing your athleticism and increasing your vertical jump. That's a program that was put together by my brother Chase, who is a certified physiologist and has degrees in exercise science. He tells you the best ways to approach developing those things. And it's a comprehensive approach. It's not just something that's giving you the power approach or whatever. It's going to make you a better athlete because it develops you across all the pillars that are important in making you stable, on balance, explosive and powerful, and it works on strength. It hits everything. So I would point you in the direction of the vertical jump videos and the vertical jump handbook. Okay. Let's lightning round this a little bit because we're running out of time. But this one is from Deshaun Morgan, who is at DJ Sean X on Twitter. He says, "When I shoot leaning forward," or maybe he says, "I shoot leaning forward when doing a pull-up shot. It falls more than a regular shot. Why?" I would say probably doesn't, other than maybe that's how you practice it more. And if you practice anything, that's going to make you better at what you don't practice. So, the thing is that leaning forward or leaning back or leaning to either side, that adds in a variable to your shot that's going to make your shot more complex, and it's going to be less likely for you to be able to repeat that time after time after time. And it's just another thing that can go wrong. If you're thinking about it, you don't want to, if you're shooting a gun or you're doing something like throwing a ball, you don't want to be moving in any direction other than just standing there or going straight up and down, because if you add in another directional element to it, you have to account for that with your aim. So it doesn't make any sense to be going forward or back or side to side. You want to really try to get straight up and down, because that eliminates that other variable that you don't need. And when it comes to your shot, leaning forward, you don't want to be leaning forward.
Yeah, no.
It's the same thing as doing like
or
a fade,
leaning backwards.
It's the same thing as doing a fadeaway. It's going to be a harder shot. Your shooting percentage is going to go way down almost immediately because it's a harder shot. Let's see. This one is from Deshaun again. He says, "I have a pretty good handle, but I sometimes lose the ball while performing hard and fast dribble moves. How do I fix that?" Practice.
Yeah, spend time working on it. And spend time working on it at advanced speeds, sometimes we spend all this time and we're working a very casual speed, and then we go out and face the other team and defenders and whatnot, and that's when we have problems and struggle. So and this goes back to that the 3 pillars of practice too. You want to take and learn how to do all these kind of things, and then get it into a game speed situation. The game speed drills for you are really what get you ready to go play games.
Right. Okay. Let's see here. What's the next question? J-Dog Smith is asking, also from multiple places I've been hearing things about dribbling with a tennis ball. Is this useful? Is it true? Okay. The thing about it is that there's a lot of ways to skin a cat when it comes to developing your skills in whatever it is. It doesn't matter if it's basketball, baseball, football, music, whatever it is. There's a lot of ways to get things done. When it comes to these kind of, I wouldn't say the tennis ball thing is super gimmicky. I mean, that's just another thing you can do, and it can help you. And if it's something that's going to get you interested and really help you apply yourself, then I think that's fine. Sure. That's not something that we really work on, because we're big on kind of game application. We want things to be kind of, very, very, I don't know how to say it, but, just we want things to be as you would find when you step into a game. And we don't find the tennis ball thing to really be a part of our program. No. If it is something that you want to do, that's fine. Yeah. But the thing is that you can't just rely on that stuff either. You need to work on developing your ball handling and your touch and your court awareness and court vision and all that stuff with an actual basketball in your hand too. And I think it really comes down to what is going to keep you interested, what is going to make you go out there and do the work, and what is going to make you apply yourself. I mean, if that's part of it, then do it. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, there is some truth to that stuff helping you, but I think it also is just actually doing the stuff, with a real size basketball. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Leonin Crosis says, how to defend bigger and stronger when he is already in the post and has the ball. Thanks. Once he's got the ball, you're probably in trouble. There's not a whole lot that you can do. The only thing that I would say is that when he turns on the basket to shoot it, is wall him up. And that becomes kind of a difficulty for a lot of players to shoot, even over shorter players, when you get those arms at full extension and you're up into him belly button to belly button. That means that you're chesting right up to him. Yeah, and the thing is that when we're talking about post defense, we would never let the guy get the ball, right? Because we're playing him, we're denying the basketball, and we're kind of giving up our position behind by letting the help defense with that. Right. And if we are denying the guy the ball, he's not going to get the ball straight in. He's just not going to get it. And he's not going to get it where he wants it. If he's already gotten the ball, then something has broken down, and he's done something to, either we slipped up or he got a jump on us, right. But he is never going to catch the ball just straight up. And if he does, that's a real problem. And I mean, you can only play him straight up at that point, not go for fakes, not try to go up and block the shot, contest the shot, just make it difficult, beat him to the spot. Making it difficult is what the wall up is all about. Leaving the floor to try and block his shot is an invitation to foul him. Yeah, put him on the line. Just make it a difficult shot. Don't try to stop it, because it's going to be a foul. And I mean, he's got the upper hand on you. Okay, this one is from Alpha J, who says, I'm 5'2", and I have a hard time finishing at the rim, especially on fast breaks. I just find it hard to slow down in fear of getting blocked. And so it always hits hard off the backboard. Any specific techniques to slow down and make layups on the fast break, or even just to aim on fast break layups? Okay, number one is, don't worry about getting blocked, because that is a sure way to have everything just completely break down, because you're sweating the thing that really, it doesn't matter. Or changing your shot as a result of that. Yeah, and a lot of this comes down to your mechanics, and you need to really slow everything down, work on your footwork first, and then also work on having a soft release when you lay up the ball. And, typically we're going to tell you to do an underhanded layup, especially on something like a fast break. Absolutely. Because you're able to lay it up a little bit softer. And, the thing about it is that you want to lay it up and you want to put it right in the sweet spot on the backboard, because if you're trying to go right over the front rim, you're likely going to miss it. Yep. And we have a video on that too called Never Miss Layups. And, you know, we see it all the time. Guys try to go over the front rim and they end up getting just, you know, unless you hit it directly in the middle of the rim, the ball is going to hit some side of the rim and it's going to just roll out. And that happens so often. And if you go up and you finish off the backboard, it's almost a sure thing if you hit it in that kind of general area of the sweet spot. And also it provides an extra level of protection from a defender coming in and trying to block the shot, because the rim is there, the net is there. And so you're going to have more protection there. And also if you finish underhand, let me see the ball here. If you finish underhand, you're going to be able to reach out farther than if you are trying to do it overhand. If you turn it over your hand, you're going to be able to reach out instead of having to go straight up.
There's another element with that underhand, which is really important to understand too, is that if you take off and you're going as fast as you can go on the dribble for a breakaway layup and you've got your hand behind the basketball, when you shoot it, you add your run-up speed to the back of that basketball. And so let's say you're running 4 or 5 miles per hour, and then when you go up to shoot it, you add that to the basketball. That's why it hits that backboard and bounces back to the free throw line. Like Casey was saying, if you go in with the underhand release, the ball doesn't catch much of that speed at all, and it's much softer. You'll find that much more successful for you.
And there's also the option to jump stop and put the ball up right there. Yep. And sometimes the guy just goes sailing by you, or you have the option to give him a pump fake and get him up in the air. Yep. I mean, there's so many things you can do. Just try to apply those things that we just talked about. Okay, last question is from Mirza Mujovic, who says, is it too late to start playing basketball? I am 17 in 2 months, and I played from ages 9 to 13, and I stopped. Is there a chance for me, even though I'm short? Okay, a lot of you know, excuses being made for yourself. If you want to play basketball, just start playing basketball. What is stopping you? Yeah. You know, there's no age cutoff. You know, I mean, if you're talking about maybe playing at the next level of basketball, that might be something that you have to work towards or do a kind of a circuitous route to get there. But, you know, who's to say that you can't? There's tons of players that that are in the NBA that, you know, maybe didn't even start until they were in their later teens because they weren't coordinated or they didn't grow or whatever it is. But sounds like you played and you have a little bit of experience. You just got to get out there and be consistent. And in terms of being short, who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, if you let that stop you, then you might as well not play, because that's ridiculous. You know,
players come in all sizes, and a lot of them are really good, but not very big. So
yeah, there's advantages to being tall, but there's also advantages to being shorter. Yep. So don't worry about it. Okay, so that's going to do it for us today, you guys. Thanks for sending in your questions. If we didn't get to you, it's not because we don't like you. It's because we just ran out of time. Remember that we are going to be here every Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific time to answer your questions. Make sure you are following us on all of our social media stuff. We are at Shot Science on Twitter, and we are Shot Science on everything else. We are on Facebook, Google+, Twitter, and we are on Instagram, posting things every day. And we are also on Snapchat. So make sure you're following us there, where we give you behind the scenes stuff. We also do some tips and drills and things on there. So follow us on Snapchat. And I think that's going to do it for us today.
Good. Thanks, guys.
All right, guys. Thanks.
All right.
See you next time.
All right. Bye-bye.